Hello and welcome to Comfortable Shoes Studio. I'm Leslie and this is another episode of Art Making. In this episode, I'm going to practice some urban sketching and landscape drawing. I went for a walk today. We had a beautiful sunny day here and I took some photos. So I'm going to draw, this is a little alley scene or a little alleyway in my neighborhood. I didn't quite get it level. I will make sure that this image is available for download so that you can follow along if you would like to do so. I'm going to sketch this particular scene a couple of different ways. So I'm going to do a quick little sketch in pencil on this 300 GSM or 140 pound watercolor paper. I'm going to do some watercolor with it. I'm going to do some watercolor crayons. I'm actually going to start with the watercolor crayons. Probably do some pen and ink and some ink wash as well. So, actually I think I'm going to get rid, or I'm going to turn my clipboard so it's oriented a different way. And as usual, my space is a disaster. I couldn't possibly clean anything before I turn on the camera. That would be too easy. So anyway, I've got a bunch of pieces of this paper, and I just kind of pre-planned it out so that it has this like wider space at the bottom. That works for me. And so I'm going to put the horizon line there. I don't think this is going to show up on camera. And I am going to not, so, well, actually I did a pretty good job at shooting that so it's not perfectly straight. I'm going to bring the building down like that. And I'm going to give myself a little extra sky area because that I find the most interesting aspect of this. All right, so there's the side of the building. Just kind of roughly blocking this in, and then I'm gonna do this, I think, for a couple of the drawings, a couple of the images, I guess is a better way to put it. And again, I'm going to do my usual vibes, not realism here. So we've got a white car. And then the white building back there. And this comes out like that, and then comes directly down like that, and boom, and then we've got chain link fence coming in there, and we've got the tree. I'm not going to draw the house that we've got. I think I'm going to do the ink wash to start. All right, so it's just sort of like really loosely blocked in. I think I want there's one door. Clean up some of those lines. Again, vibes, not realism here. But having a little bit of stuff there. I've got a bunch of water-soluble crayons here. I've had this set since the 90s. I'm going to use a bunch of these. This one I've had for a few years here. But yeah, I'm going to get just playing with color. I should probably be doing the ink wash first, but I think I want to play with color right now. So I'm going to play with color. Not sure you can hear that as my dog doing his thing, which apparently lately is making noise while I shoot video. All right. Use that for... All right, now let's get some brick color going on. So in order to make certain colors happen, I'm mixing right on the page. I'm just layering the colors on the page. And let's see, I want to get kind of a gray blue going on here. So I'm going to use some watercolor. I'm going to use this brown, which should blend, hopefully, with one of these blues. I'm going to go for the light blue. And I think that's going to work. I think that's going to... I know that's going to be pretty pale. All right. I'm going to use this smaller flat. And I'm just going to start adding water up in here. Definitely going to be coming back in and adding more color. Not quite the color I was hoping for, but it does get me that gray. All right, I'm gonna clean my little brush off here. I'm gonna start moving the yellows. Those bright areas. I'm kind of feeling like this is a color study. Watercolor crayons remind me a lot like of gouache on the page. Just in how they kind of move. Now, let's see. I think for this area, I think the chain link fence really gives in the excuse me. There we go. It's the layering that's going to give us that blue-gray that I'm after. And I'll come back in with I think a darker blue for part of this as well. This blue is not my fave, but it's going to have to do. Now, I don't think I have, do I have a purple? Oh, I do. I even have a darker purple. There we go. I'm very much simplifying the shapes in here. There's a lot more obviously going on in this image, but I'm really enjoying simplifying the imagery. And purple is a color I very much enjoy for shadows. Purples and pinks, particularly if you've got kind of a warm thing going on, are good shadow colors in my opinion. Add a little bit more water in here. I think in some of the areas I'm going to leave the texture of the crayons because I think it works for the image. And I have a terracotta. That's good for that cement and for the tree trunk. I do have a couple of different greens, which is good because we've got some areas, and I'm just really kind of roughly blocking stuff in. And since I do mixed media a lot, my watercolor crayons tend to have schmutz on them. All right, let's get some of this green. And we've got, add a little bit, smooth out that terracotta. So the terracotta and the blue make a good color. I'm going to add some water to this to spread it out just a little bit. All right, I'm going to hit this with the heat gun and go back in with some yellow. All right, let's get a little bit of yellow. And the yellow is just peeking through just a little bit. And one of the things, I have a lot of these that are broken. If you are like me and you don't want to get watercolor crayon all over your fingers, you can take a piece of masking tape and wrap your chunks of watercolor crayon to clean that up, make it a little cleaner to use. And then I've got a lot of smudged graphite on the car and the house in the background. I'll come back with a pencil and get that car blocked in. And I'm going to use a little blue on that windshield. And the roof back here is gray. I'm going to mix the brown and the blue again. And we'll hit that with the water brush to blend that. And just give it an indication of shadows. Like so. Just smoothing stuff out a little bit. Adding a little more shadow in there. some sort of reflective thing up in there. All right. Let's see if we can. White's not going to layer well. It's not opaque enough. I have to go in with some opaque watercolors, I think, to get that cleaned up. All right, that's our first sketch. I really like that. Let me get these put away. All right, that's pretty cool. All right, I think for this next one, we're gonna do ink wash, which will be more of a value study. So I'm gonna use my ink wash brushes. So these ink wash brushes, I've shown these before on the channel. I have a blend of wash. So this is pure brown pigment. I have a blend of color that I have mixed, which is a light wash, a medium wash, and then pure pigment. So they're designated. These two are my darker washes. This is my lightest wash, and then these are black light wash and dark wash. But well, actually, this is gray. So we'll be using those. So it'll be a combination of black and brown. It's like a sepia colored ink with India ink. Same watercolor paper as the last one. I'll put a link to this paper in the description. It is from Amazon. It's an inexpensive watercolor paper. It's student grade kind of thing. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing as last time. I'm gonna have my horizon line, and then I'm gonna have the building end there. Same deal as last time. I want to give myself more sky than is in the actual image. And I'm rotating my paper so that things are just moving stuff around. All right, so top of that house in the background. I'm trying to like keep things pretty simple here. So you got the house in the background. Then there's the little white, I think that's a Toyota. Little white Toyota in the background. And you got gray blob building. It's a old Catholic school. Now it's a science school. And then the fence goes like that. And then comes down like so. And there's the fence disappearing. we'll have tree leaning that way, and then we're not going to see the tree here, but what we will see is that tree hanging out like that. And we've got some sort of janky pipe coming down, and there's some other thing. It's the drain, I think, for the building. And then we've got a chimney. So for the pencil, this is a Rotring VisuClick 7.7 millimeter. And it's a pretty okay student mechanical pencil. All right, got one door, and then we've got another door set back a little bit. And getting a little caught in the details here. All right. Again, smudging everything all over the place. So we're going to do a value study on this one. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do the lightest midtones first. So I'm going to do the sky. And we had a pretty clear day, but I feel like the white, and preserve the white of the car. Got a lot of different values going on here. A lot of lights, a lot of darks. Got a little happy with the squeezing on my brush there. All right. So we got darker fence area there. And brush in the tree and this whole area. I want to break up some of this shadow so it's more realistic to what's there. Again, not stressing out over getting it too real here. All right, so might need to come in and dry this. But okay, so this is my lightest shade of brown. I'm going to go in with a round brush and add in some of the darker brown. Let's see how that works. So the way ink wash works is that you layer it to get your darker areas. And you can also use hatching to get the darkest darks. But really, the way it works best is if you are using the layering. It really does seem to just work better that way, in my opinion anyway. So some of the darkest areas of this image are over here and then in these shadows. I kind of want to move the eye around this image so you can play with contrast with this. So this is a water-soluble ink, so as I'm adding additional layers over the top of it, it is kind of lifting and mixing. So I'm going to use the heat gun to dry this out. All right, so now that I've done that, I'm going to come in with my darkest shade of gray, and I'm gonna add some more depth to those shadows. This is part of the reason I use these cheap water brushes, is so that I can do this kind of dry brush technique with them and and feel okay about it. You know, if I were doing this with a nice brush, I would not feel okay about abusing the brush quite so much. All right. So the thing with ink wash is that it always dries quite a bit lighter than what it looks like initially. So you really do have to be patient with it and build up some careful layers. I'm not sure you can see this on camera, but it is still picking up some of the brown ink from the initial layers. Of brown ink. But there we go. All right, I think I like that in terms of like a value study. You know, it's not completely dry. I think our darkest area is right in there. It's like a combination of cast shadow. This is all gonna dry quite a bit lighter. It pulls the eye right there into the middle. All right, I'm gonna hit that with the heat gun. I want to get these out of the way though, because anytime I do a heat gun and the ink brushes are near the heat gun, they act a lot like a fountain pen, and it pushes the ink out of the brush into the cap. All right, so there we have a tonal value ink wash, and then we have a little color study happening here. Pretty happy with both of these so far. And now let's do a watercolor. Same image, same idea. Let's find that horizon line. I'm going to drop that about a third of the way. So you got a third there. So my horizon line's 1/3. I think I want more. I don't want the little side of the house there in the middle. But I think that's what we're gonna end up with. Again, going for vibes, not realism here. There's that little, pretty sure that's Toyota, could be a Honda. Doesn't really matter. have that bush there. And then the tree there. All right, I got went a little too far, I think. Should have pushed that off into the distance. Oh well. All right, we got some sort of thing hanging off the side. And then there's another drain for the building right there. We got chimney. Dropping in right like that. We're not going to see the door this time. We will see a little bit of a door there. Okay. Clean that. Lines up a little bit. This eraser is a Crayola eraser from Dollar Tree. Very affordable and surprisingly nice. It's a nice plastic eraser, you know, non-toxic and all that, and it's nice and soft, so it doesn't appear to hurt the page at all. All right, we got that. Okay. Now, I've been using a sponge to clean off my brush. It's been working pretty well for me. I think I'm going to put some water up here in the sky. And for sky color, I'm going to use my Beam paints. Blue. We got some blue peeking through. I think I'm going to put a little bit of a purple color. In here for the darkest areas. Also the chain link fence, I'm going to put a base of purple on there. And then a lighter bit of purple on that house in the background. I'm using really pretty washed out colors for these first layers. And then for this cement, I'm going to put a little muddy gray color. All right, now for the building, to get that brick color, I'm going to mix some red, some of the magenta, and some yellow. Need a lot more yellow. This yellow is really nice, but I feel like it takes a little bit of extra time to activate it, and I should have thought of that going into this. All right, this is my kind of brick color. I'll add just a little bit of this green to get the, kind of dull it down a little bit because it's pretty intense. All right, now we got a couple of little highlight areas. And some areas of shadow here. And add some of this warm color over the top of that shadow to give it more shadow. Some more here. I don't really want it that bright and purpley because it's not. And then add some indication of the tree there. We've also got some tree limbs coming out here. All right. Now, I'm going to go back into the yellow. I'm going to add these sort of highlight areas that are pretty bright. Adding a little bit of indication of brick in there with a little more red. The bricks in a lot of the buildings around here are more of an orange than terracotta, but again, vibes, not realism. All right, in terms of greens, we've got a pretty dark. I'm going to add a couple of little brush strokes here of the yellow. Just because I think that's going to be necessary. All right, so we've got yellowy and go straight into the blue. Adding a little bit of brown. So I'm not using a strict beam paint CMYK palette. I have also got my CMYK adjacent palette here. So I'm kind of being rough with this inexpensive water brush. I'm going to add some of this blue, greeny, gray color. A little bit of gold. Get some more shadow and contrast going. And I'm being, again, pretty rough with this brush. So this is a cedar. I don't know what cedar. Should check and see what cedars are prevalent around here. There are a bunch of these little few cedars hanging around this area, or in this neighborhood, I should say. So my CMYK adjacent palette is a blue, a magenta, and a yellow. I've gone over this before, I think, on the channel. If not, it's on my Instagram. And instead of black, I use sepia, which does have black in it, but it's a much better color for mixing greens and earth tones and things like that. So you can get better grays, in my opinion, from my CMYK adjacent palette than I do with a true CMYK palette like the Beam palette. The Beam palette is a pretty true representation of CMYK, in my opinion. So you get, I think the colors are a little muddier in this, and that's not a knock on the palette itself. That's just the colors. I think Beam has done a great job at creating a really nice palette here. But, it's CMYK. It's cool, but it's also a little limited in what it can do. Also, I find that the colors remind me of gouache quite a bit. So, and that's not, again, it's not a knock. There's a slight chalkiness to the colors, which I really kind of like. But I know it's not going to be for everyone. I do like how their colors granulate. There's something about the shade of blue when it gets blended with some of these other colors that it really does seem to kind of turn to like a gouache kind of feeling. I like it. It works for me. All right. So there we go. We've got 3 studies of the same image done, one in watercolor. Pretty happy with the tonal variety there. We've got the color study I did with the crayons, again, very different feel. And then the ink wash. So it's just a couple of different ways you can kind of explore a scene or a subject with different materials. And they all give like a slightly different vibe. So again, I'll make sure that the image file is available in the description. It'll also be available on my Ko-fi account, so if you're interested, you can download it from my Ko-fi account. If you haven't yet followed me on Ko-fi, head over there. I do a lot of instructional posts and musings on creativity and all of that fun stuff that are free for followers. I also do some supporter-only content, so if you're interested in supporting the channel, that's a good way to do it. All right, so thanks for being here, and I'll see you next time. Thanks and bye.